Hey, I'm John Cannell, and today on Preppy Kitchen we're making some soft and delicious pumpkin cookies. So let's get started. First off, in a medium bowl, we're gonna get all the dry ingredients together, starting with 2.5 cups or 300 grams of all-purpose flour. The scale is really the best way to get the appropriate amount of flour. If you add too much, your cookies will not be as soft and cakey as they could be. To puff things up, we're gonna add a teaspoon of baking soda and a teaspoon of baking powder. Our pumpkin is slightly acidic, so the baking soda will react with that acid and really puff up. Any pumpkin dessert needs warming spices, so we're gonna use 2 teaspoons of cinnamon. And I would say these are like the basic spices that everybody likes. If you wanna add some of your favorites, go ahead. I would say a 1/4 teaspoon of allspice, cardamom, nutmeg. Those could all be great. I'm also using 1 teaspoon of pumpkin pie spice. If it's autumn and you are loving all of the pumpkin flavors, there's actually a recipe on the blog for making your own pumpkin pie spice, and that way you can have it tailored exactly to your taste. So you could have a little bit more allspice, you could add a dash of cardamom, you could have a sprinkle of cloves in there. It'll all be really good. To give us some contrast, we're adding 1/2 teaspoon of salt. Sprinkle that in, and now we're gonna grab a whisk and mix it up. And just whisk, whisk, whisk. You really want to distribute all those spices and the leavening agents so everything rises equally. Set that aside, and now it's time to grab your stand mixer or a big bowl and your hand mixer. Now, in the bowl of my stand mixer, fitted with a paddle attachment, I'm gonna add 1/2 cup or 113 grams of room temperature unsalted butter, and it's important that it's not too cold. So, you can use your finger and press into it. You can bend the butter and it's not gonna be clanking in your mixer, never mixing situations. Okay, in this recipe, we're using a delicious combination of granulated sugar and light brown sugar. So it's 1/2 cup or 100 grams of granulated sugar and 1 cup packed light brown sugar, that's 220 grams. And as usual, I'm going to spill it on the counter. As usual, I'm gonna crumble this in my hands so that I can find any big clumps that won't mix well. If you're wondering why we're using brown sugar and white sugar, not just one or the other, well, we need sugar for sweetness and to soften the cookies. White sugar is great, but brown sugar has more flavor. It'll also make your cookies spread a bit more. So we'll use a combination of white and brown sugar for flavor and so they'll hold their shape. Now we're gonna beat this on medium speed for 2 to 3 minutes. You'll see the texture really change. It'll come together and be like a caramel cloud. And it's always a good idea to scrape the bowl down, especially if there's any clumps of butter clinging to your bowl. Back to mixing. This is well combined, and it might not look as much of a cloud as I'd like, but we haven't added the egg in. I forgot about that. I didn't forget to add the egg. I forgot the egg makes the texture so beautiful. So crack 1 egg in, room temperature, large please, no shells. And 1 teaspoon of vanilla extract for some lovely flavor. There we go. Now it's looking much better. The star ingredient is, of course, the pumpkin puree. I like to use Libby's because of the color and the texture. They don't pay me to say that. I just told you, I bought a lot of different store brands, and this one works consistently well. You're gonna use pumpkin puree, not pumpkin pie filling, and what this is gonna do is give you a lovely bit of moisture and make the cookies incredibly soft, as well as having that color and very subtle pumpkin flavor. 1 cup, 240 grams. We're gonna mix this on low for about 30 seconds until it's nicely combined. And I see an interesting looking pumpkin situation here. You see lots of streaks of pure butter and sugar. So let's scrape the bowl down. And by the way, if you like my videos, hit that subscribe button. There's 2 new recipes every single week and shorts as well. We're gonna mix this on low just for a few more seconds to make sure everything's nice and combined. And now it's time to gradually add our flour in while mixing on low. There we go. At this point, I'm gonna stop the mixture because I will finish this by hand as usual. And I'll point out that this is the time where you would add in some mix-ins if you're using them. If I was making this for myself, I'd add 2/3 to 1 cup of toasted chopped pecans. Those would be delicious. I love pumpkins and pecans together, but you could add some chocolate chunks, chocolate chips, really like any kind of mix-in that you would generally enjoy will work. And I'll be finishing these cookies off with a really easy but delicious glaze. The cookies themselves are like perfectly sweet, but a little kiss of sugar on the outside makes them just a little bit more special. Now it's time to cover this and refrigerate for about 30 minutes until it's firmed up. Then we can scoop and get to work. Towards the end of your chill time, set your oven to 350 so it's ready for your cookies. My batter's chilled, the oven is at 350, and now we're gonna scoop these out and get them onto our baking sheet. Then we can make our delicious frosting. So just plop out about 2 tablespoons worth of batter and pop it right onto a paper-lined baking sheet. I always like to use a rimmed baking sheet when I'm making cookies because that rim gives you a tiny little bit of insulation from the heat of the oven and they bake a bit more evenly, in my humble opinion. You should give your cookies about 2 inches of space on the sheet to spread, and if you love that perfectly round cookie, go ahead and have a round cookie cutter ready for when they come out of the oven so you can corral them a bit, but really these are pretty rustically shaped cookies. My first batch of cookies is ready to go into the oven, 350 for about 11 minutes. You'll see that the centers are just set, they're puffed and looking delicious. In the meantime, we'll make our icing. Just out of curiosity, with my damp, clean hands, I'm giving the next batch a quick roll. I want to see if they bake up a little bit smoother and a little bit less rustic. It gets covered in glaze anyways, but I'm just curious. So let's see what happens. My cookies are cool, and just as an aside, these are the ones I just scooped out and rolled with damp hands. They actually are a bit smoother, if that means anything to you. Like, if I was just gonna have a naked cookie, I actually would like it to look a little bit nicer, but they're both gonna get drizzled with a beautiful and delicious icing, so kinda doesn't matter. In a medium bowl, I have 2 cups or 240 grams of powdered sugar. Add a pinch of salt for contrast. You also wanna add 2 tablespoons of melted and cooled butter. Butter is amazing for icing, and anytime you have a recipe that doesn't use it, you will notice the difference. It tastes so much richer and it's just better. 1 teaspoon of vanilla for flavor. Here I have a 1/4 cup of cold milk. You can add in as much as you need to get the drizzling consistency you need. And I say that because if your butter is hot and didn't cool down, it's gonna be a looser consistency. If it's a cold day, it might thicken up, so really just add as much milk as you need. Whisk, whisk, whisk. Sometimes when I make these cookies, I like to add in like 1/2 teaspoon of cinnamon and my other favorite fall spices, and it gives the icing a lovely color and the flavor is great. This is like a lovely frosting consistency, so just a bit more. I'm probably gonna add almost the entire 1/4 cup. Okay, that is a lovely consistency. It's gonna drizzle over but hold its shape. You could enjoy these cookies plain, you could enjoy them with a drizzle, or you can dip them in the frosting for a fully frosted cookie. Either way, they're gonna be delicious. These cookies will last at room temperature in a sealed container for up to a week, or you can freeze the baked or unbaked cookies without frosting for up to 2 months. Allow the icing to set, and just like that, your cookies are ready to enjoy. These are so soft and cakey, they just melt in your mouth, and the frosting is the perfect hit of sweetness. It's like just a perfectly balanced cookie. I hope you get a chance to make this delicious recipe, and if you like my videos, hit that subscribe button and check out my pumpkin playlist.